will now dissect the category controller class, which is annotated to expose a set of REST endpoints. As REST controller, it's basically just at controller with at response body. It is used to annotate the controller class to indicate that it supports REST. It comes with at request mapping to define the class level properties such as path and what media type is produced or consumes. You can also add consumes here, but here we just specify the produces property. For Swagger documentation, we use at API operation, at API param, and at API responses. Later, we will see how this annotation works. And here are the most commonly used REST annotations in reference to CRUD. So we have create, which is HTTP post, and executed by using post mapping. Post mapping is just get mapping. No, I mean post mapping is just request mapping with method equals post. It creates a new entity and returns the entity with the auto-generated ID. Here we can see that the newly created entity was or is converted to resource by using the category resource assembler. This is a hate OAS feature, and we will discuss it. We will discuss this feature in the succeeding video. Next, we have update, which is HTTP put, and we have the output mapping annotation that maps to it. It updates an existing entity, and it also returns the updated entity. So in this case, we're not converting the updated entity to a resource, so we can see the difference. Next, we have the find or list, which is an HTTP get, and map to at get mapping. So here we have get mapping with a UID as the parameter, and the other one is via code. Then we have delete, HTTP delete, which is annotated with at delete mapping. This one returns a no content response. And finally, we have patch, HTTP patch, which is mapped to at fetch mapping. In general, fetch should send all the fields of an entity during an update, while patch just sends a subset. So for example, in category, if we're just updating the description. So assuming category has extra field like metadata, so patch will just update a subset. So for example, just the description. So in general, we just use put. These are mostly the core annotations that you will use again and again, but it should not be a problem as it's generally easy to get familiar with them. To test the endpoints, I have prepared the Postman collection, which is available in source test resources folder. Let's do some testing. So let's run our application and open our Postman collection. Let's wait for our application to run. And yeah, let's start some testing. We will start with the create category request. Hit send. As mentioned earlier, it returns the newly created entity with the entity ID. So let's copy this one as we will use it in the succeeding request. And these fields are created by the category resource assembler, which is a feature of Hate OS, which we will discuss in another video. So here we created a category with code and description computers. Now let's update this category. In here we need to update the UUID in the path parameter. And let's change the description into physical computers and hit send. Now we got this response, this updated category entity. And notice that now we don't have the hate OS specific fields. So going back, this one is post, response is 201 created, update is put, response is 200 okay. Now for the next request, we have find by UUID, which is a get request, then hit send, and we have our category entity as the response with status 200 okay. We have an alternative way to request for a specific category, and that is by using code. So here we get the same entity as the find category by using the UUID, and the method get and the status equals 200 okay. Now let's list the categories. URL is similar to find, but in this request, we did not specify any path parameter. Method is get. So we have a list of categories, but for this case we only have one. Status is 200 okay. And take note that the categories field is inside the embedded field. This is a common mistake when creating a client, because normally we expect the categories as the first node of this response, but in this case we have embedded. And then we have the delete category. Method is delete. Let's hit send, and the status is okay. Sorry for that. We first need to update the UUID in the path parameter and hit send. So we don't have any text response, but the status is 204, no content. So that means that the request was successful, because if we execute the next request, which is find category, again change the UUID, method is get, and hit send, so we get this response which tell us that the category with this ID does not exist. So status is 404, which is not found, and this exception is handled by an exception class that we created, which we will discuss in another video. I think that's it for this video. Next, we will discuss how we can automate request validation. Thanks for watching, and bye!